what, when, where, and why? These are just some of the questions that investigators try to answer to help them solve murders. In many cases, the most difficult to answer is who. There are many unsolved murders out there, more than you could possibly believe. But some of the most famous unsolved murders were the ones done by Jack the Ripper. The year was 1888, and the people in the Whitechapel district of London, as well as some of the surrounding areas, were terrified. There was a murderer on the loose. The victims were all prostitutes, which wouldn't normally be newsworthy at the time, as it was well known that women in that particular line of work were physically attacked and in some cases killed. It was the sadistic nature of the murders that made everyone take notice. They weren't just murdered, they were butchered. Between the years of 1888 and 1891, there were 11 unsolved murders in the Whitechapel area, known as the Whitechapel murders. Thing is, not all of these murders are believed to be the work of Jack the Ripper. 5 of them are considered to be confirmed victims. It is possible that the other murders, or some of them at least, may also be from him, but there's little evidence to support that. Let's look at the murders that are believed to be done by Jack the Ripper. The canonical 5. Ann Nichols. She was found early Friday morning on August 31st in Bucks Row, now known as Durwood Street. Her throat was cut twice, and a large gash could be seen in her lower abdomen. Annie Chapman, 29 Hanbury Street on Saturday, September 8th at roughly 6 a.m. She suffered the same fate as Nichols, 2 deep slashes in her throat, and her abdomen was ripped open. The only difference was that Chapman's uterus was removed. Now, when Nichols was murdered, the police were questioning other prostitutes in the area. They told of a man who was called Leather Apron. Apparently, he had been extorting money for the past year from the women. After Annie Chapman was found dead, a man by the name of John Pizer was arrested. Sergeant Thick believes that he was Leather Apron. However, Pizer had alibis for the recent murders and was released. In the early morning of Sunday, September 30th, not 1, but 2 victims were found, Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes. Elizabeth was found near Burner Street, or Henrique Street as it's now called. Her murder was in doubt of even being committed by the Ripper at first, as the only wound was the single slash across the left side of her neck. It is believed that the murderer may have been interrupted and couldn't finish his work. Catherine Eddowes' body was found in Mitre Square. As with the others, her throat was cut. Also, the abdomen was ripped open and her left kidney and most of her uterus was removed. Her face had been cut up as well. Joseph Lawin told the police that he saw a man with a woman who may have been Catherine just before the murder. And finally, Mary Jane Kelly. Her body was found in her bed at 13 Miller's Court on a Friday, November 9th, 1888. The amount of mutilation to her body means that the killer had plenty of time and had no reason to rush. Her face was shredded and the only way she could be identified was by her ears and eyes. Also, her heart was missing. These 5 women are considered to be the definite victims of Jack the Ripper. On September 27, a letter was sent to the Central News Agency addressed Dear Boss. The author of the letter mentions how his last job was grand and that he gave the lady no time to squeal. He also taunts the police on how funny it was that they thought Leather Apron was the killer. And the letter was signed, Jack the Ripper. The police initially thought that the letter was just a hoax, a morbid joke. But when Catherine Eddowes' body was found and her face was cut up like the murderer was trying to cut off her ear, and in the letter, it also said, "The next job I do, I shall clip the lady's ears off," the police no longer thought it was a hoax. close to a week later, another letter arrives, known as the Saucy Jackie letter. There was some debate as to whether or not it was from the Ripper, but when the author mentioned the double event, referring to the murders of Elizabeth Stride and Catherine Eddowes, it seemed very likely it was from the killer. This too was signed Jack the Ripper. Some believe that Jack the Ripper must have been someone with some medical or surgical skills, as he was able to remove internal organs in very little time. Dr. Thomas Bond believed the killer had no medical knowledge whatsoever. Regardless, they were nowhere near catching him. In the middle of October, another letter arrives. It was addressed from hell and delivered to George Lusk. Now, George Lusk was the chairman for the Whitechapel Vigilance Committee, a group who helped patrol the streets and assist the police in the hunt of the killer. Along with the letter was a piece of a human kidney. The letter is full of spelling mistakes, but in it he mentions how the author ate the other half of the kidney, and that he may send to Lusk the bloody knife that was used in the killing. Even though there were 4 more unsolved murders in the area, none of them had been linked to Jack the Ripper. It's as if he just disappeared. And those letters sent by the Ripper? It turns out that the first 2 letters were fakes. A local journalist wanted to keep the business alive, as he put it, so he and a colleague wrote the letters. The 3rd letter, however, most people believe this one to be genuine. Now, there were many possible suspects as to who the identity of Jack the Ripper may have been. John Druitt, the son of a local surgeon. He died shortly after the body of Mary Kelly was found. Then 3 years later, it was whispered that Jack the Ripper was the son of a surgeon. Not exactly a lot of proof there, so that's not very likely. Then we have James Maybrick. Now, he wasn't really a suspect until 1992, when a diary appeared that was supposedly Maybrick's. It never mentioned Maybrick by name, but the information provided makes it seem like it was him. In this diary, Maybrick took credit for 5 of the murders and claims that he was Jack the Ripper. Maybrick was killed by his wife in 1889, which would line up with the sudden stop in Ripper murders. There was also a pocket watch found with J. Maybrick etched on the inside cover. The words "I am Jack" along with the initials of 5 Ripper victims were also there. The thing is, the diary can't be proven to be genuine, and the watch may have been from the right time period, but the scratches, however, were only a few decades old. There have been other suspects, but the evidence against them was minimal or circumstantial at best. What we do know is Jack the Ripper terrorized the Whitechapel area for only a few months. Everything else is just up to speculation. He could have just switched up his murdering style and he was still out there all this time, or he may have died. No matter how you look at it, we will probably never know who Jack the Ripper was. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please don't forget to hit that like button and then subscribe. Once again, my name is Rick, and I'll see you next time on The Unsolved.